This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Today's topic is daycare surgery. To introduction, daycare surgery is the planned admission and discharge of a patient for a specific surgical procedure within the 12-hour working day. It requires full sterile theater and recovery room facility. Daycare surgery is more a patient pathway extending from first contact of the patient to the final discharge. The success demands that each component of this pathway is safe, efficient, and performed in sequence. There are other forms of ambulatory surgeries. First is outpatient surgery. Outpatient surgery means we will not admit the patient to any ward. Second is procedure room surgery. The surgery full day. Third is overnight stay or 23-hour stay surgery. This requires overnight admission with early morning discharge. Fourth is another is short stay surgery. Short stay surgery is will admit the patient up to 72 hours. That is inpatient surgery. Inpatient surgery requires more prolonged admission. Patients who are planned as inpatients but discharged home the same day of surgery counts as inpatients with zero length of stay. Due to surgical importance of daycare surgery, daycare surgery represents a high quality patient care with excellent patient satisfaction. There will be shorter hospital stay and early mobilization of the patient. This reduces the rate of hospital-acquired infections and venous thromboembolisms. This ensures smaller patient waiting times, less risks of cancellations, reduces the demands on healthcare resources like human, non-human, and financial, and less interruption to social life of patients. In the history of daycare surgery, James Nicol is a 20th century Glaswegian surgeon. 9,000 pediatric daycare procedures. This is motivated by financial benefits, concerns for hospital-acquired infections, and lack of bed spaces. 1951, first hospital-based daycare surgery unit was opened in 1989. Formation of British, there is a formation of Association of Daycare Surgery and International Association of Ambulatory Surgery. There are different models of care. First is office-based care. In this office-based care, there will be both diagnostic and ambulatory interventions are performed in consultation premises. Provides readily accessible healthcare to patients. It is limited to procedure under local anesthesia or conscious sedation. Another is stand-alone day surgery facility. A freestanding unit is a freestanding unit not geographically or administratively part of any other healthcare facility or a hospital satellite unit which is located away from the parent hospital or within the campus of the hospital. The cases which are performed are limited to procedures under local and regional anesthesia. and minor to intermediate procedures under general anesthesia are performed under standalone day surgery facility. Under a self-contained integrated facility or hospital autonomous unit. This is structurally part of a hospital, but functionally it is separate from the hospital. The main is it is self-sufficient, means they have own reception, they have own ward, theater, and recovery areas. They do not take any emergency admissions. They have access to current hospital facility if there is any requirement. Another is integrated and short stay surgery facilities. The hospital operation theater and recovery rooms are used for both day cases and inpatients. It is more challenging day case procedures can be performed or carried out. This is the daycare surgery pathway. You can just read it. Please note it down this diagram or this flow chart. Okay, did you note it down? Okay. These are the procedures which are performed under daycare procedure, daycare basis. In abdominal surgeries, there will be excision or treatment of annulations, femorodectomy, primary and recurrent inguinal or femoral hernia, laparoscopic cholecystectomies, laparoscopic fundoplications, and pilonidal sinus surgeries. These are all performed under daycare procedures. The breast, there is excision and biopsy of breast lesion, sentinel node excision. Genital urinary, there is laser prostatectomy, orchidectomy, circumcision, excision, epididymis. These are all performed under daycare procedures. Orthopedics, hysterectomy, carpal tunnel, therapeutic arthroscopy of knee or shoulder. In vascular surgery, there are varicose veins procedures and thoracoscopic sympathectomy are performed under daycare surgeries. So, there will be some selection criteria for daycare procedure. The criteria depends on medical condition of the patient, social criteria, and surgical aspect of the patient or surgical criteria. First is medical criteria for daycare procedure. Age, there is no upper age limit for daycare procedure. Any comorbidities like ASA 1 and 2, they are referred for standalone units, and ASA 3, for integrated facilities. We refer for integrated facilities. The patient is having diabetes. Diabetes should be controlled, and HbA1c should be less than 8.5%. Diabetic patient should be posted first on the list for surgery. Morning list patients can skip morning dose of oral hypoglycemic medicines or insulin. In the afternoon list patients and patients on continuous subcutaneous infusions are managed closely with diabetic. The hypertensive patients, BP should be less than 180/100. This is the medical criteria. The patient is having epilepsy, it should be well controlled. Patient should be continuous routine medication, should use continuous routine medications in the preoperative period. Poorly controlled patients are reviewed with medical team, and social support is very important. Obesity is not an absolute contraindication for daycare surgery. BMI should be less than 40 for any surface procedures and should be 38 or less for laparoscopic procedures. Patient should be reviewed for any comorbidities. Any risk of sleep apnea post-operatively should be assessed. Anticoagulants for atrial fibrillation. If the patient is having history of previous thromboembolism or on metallic heart valve, must be reviewed with a cardiologist. Surgery requires continuation of criteria. Surgery. Caregiver must be willing to cooperate. They should be able to understand, comply, and cope with post-procedure instructions. Any escort who is escorting the patient should be responsible and physically able. He should be physically able adult. Transport, a journey time of 1 hour or less should be there from the hospital to the patient home. There should be a comfortable transportation. There should be comfortable home facilities with appropriate toilet facilities should be there. Communication, there should be means of communications with the hospital. Surgical criteria for daycare surgeries. Surgery should be simple surgery. Should be surgery length of surgery should not be more than 2 hours. It should be minimally risk of post-operative complications, example hemorrhage or any airway compromise. There should be minimal post-operative pain that can be controlled by simple analgesia. No specific post-operative nursing care is required post-surgery. Procedure must not require patient should return to normal food and fluid intake possibly after the procedure. Venous thromboembolic risk assessment should be done for prolonged procedures. Preoperative assessment, issues and management of daycare procedure. We should evaluate the patient and optimize the patient for fitness for surgery. Patient should be performed early in the pathway. Past medical history and clinical examination should be taken preoperatively. So basic health screening like BMI and blood pressure should be noted. Appropriate investigation should be done, like routine investigations like complete blood picture, liver function test, renal function test, clotting profile, and other specific investigations should be done preoperative. It should be best performed by specialist nursing team, which is supported by an anesthetist. We should assess and optimization of nutrition of the patient before surgery. If there is poor nutrition status, it is an independent risk factor for complications after surgery. Patients with moderate and severe undernutrition, they benefit from preoperative nutritional support, preferably via enteral route for at least 7 days preoperative. So, poor nutritional status patient, it is an independent risk factor for operative complications for daycare surgery. So, you should optimize the nutritional status of the patient. There is evidence that supports that it may be beneficial to provide a drink containing 100 grams of carbohydrate on the evening before surgery, and another second drink of carbohydrate, same containing 100 grams, containing 50 grams, 2 to 3 hours before surgery. This carbohydrate dose improves preoperative feeling of thirst, hunger, and anxiety to the patient. It reduces post-operative insulin resistance and reduces the catabolic stress response to surgery. Improvement of physical fitness. Patients with poor baseline exercise tolerance, exercise tolerance, and physical conditionings are at increased risk of serious perioperative complications. The strategy of augmenting the physical capacity in anticipation of an upcoming stressor is termed as rehabilitation. So, you have to improve the physical fitness of the patient before daycare. Preoperative fasting. Current preoperative fasting guidelines recommend a 2-hour fasting for clear liquids and a 6-hour fasting for solids. It is tailored to suit the scheduled time for surgery. So, patient education and consent. Patient should be provided information about the benefits of daycare program, goals for daily nutritional intake, early post-operative mobilization or ambulation, what is the discharge criteria, and what are the care taken at home, and what are the warning signs which seeks emergency medical care, expected hospital stay in the event of common complications. These are all should be informed to the patient before the surgery. The returned informed consent should be taken from the patient. Okay. These are the preoperative instructions form of daycare surgery. In this, there are various instructions which should be followed by the surgical team and anesthesia team and patient. So you can note it down. You have time, note it down. These are the preoperative instructions given for a daycare procedure. It should be given to patient after the assessment of anesthesia or anesthetic team. You should not eat any solid food after midnight. You can take unrestricted plain water until 2 hours before the scheduled surgery. You should not drink any alcohol 24 hours before surgery. Take routine medications with small sips of water as directed by your surgeon or anesthesiologist. Bring a list of medications and the dosage. Shower with soap, shampoo your hair, and brush your teeth on the morning of surgery. Remove all nail polish and makeup. You are required to remove any contact lenses, dentures, or partial plates before the surgery. You should remember to bring containers for the which you should give to the patient before the surgery. The perioperative management and the scheduling. First is theatre list. First, dedicated daycare surgery list should be provided. Mixed inpatient and daycare surgery list should be provided separately. Preoperative medications like benzodiazepines, antiemetics like ondansetron, any antacids or H2 antagonists should be given. Analgesics, mostly NSAIDs preferred over opioids. Any intraoperative issues and management. Anesthesia techniques. Daycare surgery, mostly given as general anesthesia. Most commonly used induction agent is propofol. Propofol is the IV agent of choice for induction in daycare surgery. For maintenance anesthesia, desflurane and sevoflurane are used as they facilitate early recovery. Short or intermediate acting non-depolarizing muscle relaxants are used like Suzetrigine, Evacurine. Sugammadex is a new compound which has shown to provide faster reversal of non-depolarizing muscle relaxation. Regional anesthesia techniques which are used are spinal anesthesia, epidural anesthesia, and peripheral nerve block have several advantages over general anesthesia. Why? Because of improved pulmonary function, decreased cardiovascular demand, lower incidence of ileus, and good quality of analgesia at rest and on ambulation. For faster recovery of the patient, mini-dose lidocaine 10 to 30 mg, bupivacaine 3.5 to 7 mg, or ropivacaine 5 to 10 mg, or spinal anesthesia techniques are combined with potent analgesics like fentanyl, a dose of 10 to 25 micrograms, or sufentanil 5 to 10 micrograms. Pivot technique using propofol is popular and offer advantage of reduced post-operative nausea and vomiting. Caudal block is used to reduce pain in pediatric patients for circumcision, herniorrhaphy, or orthopedics. Intra-articular local anesthesia are useful following arthrosis. Femoral and sciatic nerve block. Sciatic nerve block. Femoral and sciatic nerve block for knee surgery. Nerve blocks using portable infusion pumps, which the patient can continue at home, are also. Anesthesia techniques using incisional local anesthesia. Infiltration of local anesthesia is used for surgical procedures like hernia repair, anal surgery, and breast surgery. Long-acting local anesthetic like bupivacaine should be injected into the wound. Intraoperative issues and its management is we should maintain maintenance of normothermia in the operation theater. Mild hypothermia elicits a stress response during recovery period. Maintenance of intraoperative normothermia with the use of active and passive warning devices should be used. Aggressive post-operative management of shivering and residual hypothermia, it decreases the incidence of wound infection, myocardial ischemia, and protein breakdown. Coming to fluid management, strategies that avoid both hypovolemia and post-operative overload are important in facilitating fast-track recovery process. Intraoperative esophageal Doppler monitoring can facilitate goal-directed fluid administration by targeting the specific values for the cardiac index. Soluset is used for pediatric patients. Minimization of incision and minimal incision surgery. The incision should be as small as possible while allowing adequate exposure. The laparoscopic techniques must be used whenever possible. Post-operative issues are mostly major pulmonary embolism, respiratory failure, MI, myocardial infections, and hemorrhage. Both reactionary hemorrhage, usually 4 to 6 hours post-operatively, and secondary hemorrhage after 24 hours post-operative. Any unrecognized damage to the skull, it is major problem. Minor problems like pain, post-operative nausea and vomiting, drowsiness, minor bleedings, infections, and headache. Coming to post-operative feeding, the commencement of oral feeding is tailored based on the procedure done on the patient and the patient tolerance. For most abdominal surgeries, liquids on the night following the operation with light solids given on the morning of post-op day 1. Normal diet is initiated on post-op day 2. So coming to mobilization of the patient, there is an emphasis on out of bed day 0 strategy. So on the day of surgery only you can mobilize the patient. Post-operative bed rest should be discouraged. So there should be structured post-operative mobilization. It is an important component of fast-track surgery protocol. Patient should be given written instructions that include specific goals for each day. There should be adequate pain control, which also helps in early mobilization of patient. Drains and catheters impede or it restricts the mobilization. It restricts the mobilization of the patient. There should be a discharge criteria to take care surgery. Where there should be stable vital signs for at least 1 hour. Return to baseline orientation of the patient. Ambulation without dizziness. There should be minimal pain and post-operative nausea and vomiting. There should be minimal bleeding at the surgical site. Patient should tolerate oral fluids. He should have passed urine. A responsible adult should be there to take the patient to home. Patient has received the supply of oral analgesics. Written and verbal instructions should be given to the patient about the post-operative care. Follow-up appointment and emergency contact number should be given. Post-discharge follow-up, patient should be able to contact the team member of the daycare surgery team should any problem like fever, wound redness, any discharge from the wound arise. A follow-up telephone call should be made 24 to 36 hours after the patient go home. Patient should visit the clinic between post-operative day 7 and 10 and then seen again at 1 month after the operation. Patients are given specific written instructions about the patients are given specific written instructions about the recovery course of the patient after the surgery. So what are the challenges of daycare surgery in developing countries? Mostly there is lack of awareness in the patient population. There is a poor communication between the patient and doctor, and the transport facilities was also poor. There is poor facilities for proper training of doctors in day surgery specialty, and the sidelining the surgical specialties is also a challenging in the daycare surgery. Health ministers in favor of other programs, particularly those related to HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis, as well as maternal and child health. So these ministers are in more favor of eradicating these diseases. So these are the challenges of daycare surgery in developing countries. Okay. Okay, thank you.